Hi, I'm here with Gibbons, CEO of Bennett Carroll Solicitors, and today we're going to be talking about what happens when we go to auction.
Yes. So, if you're going to an auction to buy a property, that's one of the forms of purchase of property. It's very different to signing a contract and negotiating through. Essentially, everybody gathers, usually on site. There is a copy of the contract displayed, and you really need to make sure you have a look at that, because it will have disclosure of all of the encumbrances, which very shortly will include things like bills of sale over equipment that's going to be left on site. And it may have some special conditions, and it may even have some difficulties with the site that you're not aware of, such as easements or local authority encumbrances on it. Make sure you get there early enough to have a look at that, or get the agent to send you a copy of the contract that's going to be displayed. It is worthwhile to check if the one that they send you is the same as the one that they display. So essentially, the auctioneer stands up the front, opens the bidding, and at its most basic, the highest bidder owns that property. But there are some subtle variations. So if you are the highest bidder, so long as you're over the reserve, you own that property and you can't escape. You'll then escort it down to a contract and you have to sign. So be aware that if you are the last bidder, there's no then negotiating and saying, oh, well, I don't really want to pay that price. If the property is knocked down to you as the last bidder, so long as you're over the reserve, then you will be forced to sign that contract, and there is no cooling off period. So there's talk of, you'll hear talk in the market in Queensland, there's a 5-day cooling off period. There's a cooling off period in most jurisdictions in Australia, but at an auction there isn't. You own it. Now we should talk a bit about reserves. The seller will put a reserve on the property. That is, they will speak with the agent and the auctioneer and say, I'm not prepared to sell the property below this price. That reserve is not commonly available, so the bidders don't know what that is. But you may hear the auctioneer say the property is on the market. That means either the reserve has been reached, or the owner has removed the reserve. Now once the property goes on the market, that means that the last bidder owns it. So there's something that you really need to watch out for if you are bidding on the property seriously.
Okay. I've heard about dummy bidders?
Yes, now dummy bidders have been outlawed in Queensland, but I'm not sure if they've been eradicated. It used to be the case that the auctioneer or the owner would have a couple of people standing in the crowd pretending to bid, with the idea that they would increase the price and keep things rolling along. Now that's not supposed to happen, but I can't say it doesn't happen anymore. And so you need to be aware of who the bidders are. The better bidders at auction will actually stand up the front and look out of the crowd, so that they can actually see who they're bidding against. It's not a bad little tip.
Okay, great. Conditional bid.
It is theoretically possible for you to make a conditional bid if you want to go to an auction and buy a property, but you need, say, finance approval. It's open to you, provided you do it before the auction day, to go to the agent and say, look, I want to bid on this property, but I can't make an unconditional bid. If I'm the highest bidder, I may still have to go to the bank and get approval. And it's open to the seller to say, okay, I'll accept a conditional bid from you on this property. They hate it, of course, because they might go all the way through the auction and find that you don't get your finance. So much of the time, either the agent or the vendor will say, no, sorry, go and get your finance, come and bid, or wait and see if it's passed in. Now, if the property doesn't reach its reserve, or the property doesn't go on the market, if it doesn't get to that point, there are no bids sometimes at auction. The property will be passed in. If you are the last bidder and your bid wasn't accepted and the auctioneer says, well, I'm sorry ladies and gentlemen, we're not selling the property at that price, you will have the first right of negotiation with the vendor, and they will attempt to come and grab you and say, well, let's talk about a deal. And in difficult property times, that's actually mostly how property sell. Very rarely sold under the hammer to the last bidder. They're usually passed in, and then over the next hours or days sometimes a deal is done and a contract is signed then. So don't despair if the property is passed in if you particularly want it. You'll have the opportunity to sit down and if you're the second last bidder, once the last bidder is out, you can have a chance to negotiate on the property, and you might find that it even sells for less than the last bid if the seller is really keen and the last bidder turns on his heel. That does happen sometimes. So the property is passed in, the last bidder says, no, I've actually gone cold, I'm not prepared to buy it, even at the price that I bid, I'm out of here, and you as the second last bidder have the opportunity then to go and negotiate for the purchase.
Okay. Does an auctioneer's bid have any effect on what you might try to do?
Yeah, the auctioneer can bid himself. And in the old days they would point to somebody vaguely down the back and pretend that they were accepting a bid. The auctioneers are allowed to bid themselves. They are supposed to actually declare that they're doing it in Queensland. If they do it very quietly. The auction process is designed to generate some excitement and some anxiety among would-be buyers. So the whole theatre is designed to get people bidding, to have the thing come to a close and to create some urgency. So that's why the auctioneer is jumping up and down and waving the gavel up front.
Okay. All right then, well thank you very much for your time, Gibbons.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
You can get some more information about this process and everything else to do with purchasing property at our website, which is www.bcglaw.com. So go to the website and have a look.